Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm Tomás Garza, your host. And, well, you're tuned in right here to Enlightened World Network. So thank you all for joining me here today. I hope you're having a great Friday. And if you're over in Asia, in the Pacific Islands, happy Saturday. Happy weekend to all of you. And thank you all for tuning in. This is a lot of fun for me, always. And today's idea that we're going to cover is another one of those ideas that the ego absolutely cannot stand, will not abide, will not tolerate. You may experience, I'm just telling you in advance, some extreme resistance. And this is good. Oh, yes, it's very, very good. So before we launch into it, as always, feel welcome to stop in here on the comments and say hello if you're catching me on the replay. Please do so regardless. I check these throughout the day. And it's a particularly good place if you have questions, if you have comments that you'd like to make about this idea. It should engender thought. In other words, a lot of thought. Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of thought. So what we've got here, as I'll just recap the little information that we've got here in the title, it's one of the ideas from the workbook. We're specifically talking lesson 153 here. It's one of these ideas that the ego cannot stand at all, hates, fears. And it's one of the ideas that A Course in Miracles is so known for. It's very well known for ideas that we know deep down in our heart, in our being, to be true. Why? Because we can feel them to be true. We are remembering, we're knowing the experience of them. Yet we act completely differently in the world. Why? We have given our devotion, and the Course talks about it in the sense of a slavish devotion, which is not in any way inaccurate. It's exactly what it is, slavish devotion to the ego, to this false sense of self and separation. So what's lesson 153? It's in my defenselessness, my safety lies. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Not in my $35 billion bomber program, my safety lies. Not in my armed to the hilt security system house and a closet full of automatic weapons does my safety lie. No, none of that. We're talking about what really is here. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. So you can see right away how threatening that is to the ego, who it correctly fears that we'll just see right through it and abandon it, which is ultimately what we will all do. Now, you may find yourself well on the way to doing that because you've had glimpses along the path. You've had experiences along the path. And if you haven't had that many, you're going to have them. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And you're watching this. So congratulations. Your ego is now on the run. So consider yourself blessed and fortunate, even though it may feel kind of crappy. All right. These ideas are designed to get us to really think about them. Because if we don't question the way things appear to be, how can anything ever turn out differently? We think that we have to defend ourselves in this world. We think we have to defend ourselves on social media. That's why when a Russian bot troll makes a snarky comment on our feed, or someone we know makes a snarky comment on our feed, we feel the need to clap back, right? We feel the need to lash out. In an argument with somebody, we feel the need to lash out. We feel attacked. Therefore, the ego gives rise to defense thoughts, attack and defend, attack and defend. It characterizes our world. Even in nature that we think is so cute, animals eat each other, right? People eat them. We eat each other emotionally. We do all types of combat and warfare, from smart bombs and weapons and guns to verbal warfare, to giving someone the cold shoulder in retaliation. Oh, yeah. Who does that, right? You don't have to self-identify. There are countless examples of how we relentlessly defend ourselves. So what's going on here that lesson 153 takes us through, and I really, really cannot encourage you enough to read these comments, read this material. If you don't have the book, it's available online. It's lesson 153, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. So what's going on for us is, if we defend ourselves, we believe we can be attacked. All right. If we defend ourselves, we believe we can be attacked. We can be stricken. We can be punched. We can be hit. We can be verbally assaulted. Even our physical bodies destroyed. What we call death in the world. Yeah. So when we defend ourselves, we're adopting an attitude that all of that is possible. We're equating our self with the body. We're equating ourself with the ego, which, as we all know, is totally confused. And yet we know in our heart of hearts, in our deepest being, there is another way. And we are in charge of choosing that. We've talked about this recently, where spirituality is an adult endeavor. Oh, and I'm very thankful, I hope you are too, that that's the case. It's about taking responsibility and owning everything that happens to us. We are, in fact, the author of our own experience. And this means that we can choose differently. We can choose to identify with love. We can identify with our self with a capital S. Call it your higher self, call it spirit, source, God, the universe, whatever you're comfortable with. What we really are is beyond words, any words. So it doesn't matter which word you use to refer to this experience, to this truth with a capital T. Defenselessness is strength. Why? Because we're making a statement, whether it's verbal or not. We're showing, we're teaching, we're demonstrating that who we really are cannot be attacked. Remember, we have a choice in the present moment to choose either love or fear. Who we really are when we choose love cannot be attacked. So the true you, us, really, we should say, has never gone anywhere. Despite the fact that we've all had countless eons and eons of experience being separated, the truth of who we are has always been there. It's like we talked about yesterday on the live stream. Only truth is true. In other words, nothing else exists. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That is the summary of A Course in Miracles. Of course, we need every single one of these lessons, and we need the repetition, don't we? Because as adult learners, well, we've got each and every one of us a stubborn streak. And some days it's really powerful isn't it? It's really prevalent, and it just shows up in our face, a stubborn streak of, I'm resistant to that. And you may be experiencing that right now. And some of these ideas, if you really take the time to think about them, may generate a lot of resistance. It's the ego's own fear that you'll abandon it. So the Course says that in that one thing alone, the ego is correct. It definitely does fear that you'll abandon it, and you will. Now we could choose to do that right now, and then choose again to do that again and again and again in the present moment. This is why spirituality involves awareness and mindfulness practice, things like meditation, things like prayer, things like the exercises and the practice periods in the workbook for students. So it doesn't make any difference what spiritual tradition you are in right now or which one you come from. We all have the same power of decision in the present moment. We could choose to acknowledge defenselessness, our defenselessness. Who we are cannot be attacked. But that doesn't mean if someone barges in the door right now that I'm not going to clock them. Right. Absolutely, we have the right to, in the world, defend our loved ones and our property and things like that. What we're talking about here is the ultimate point of view. We're talking about the truth of who we really are, which cannot be attacked. So in the example I just raised, since I'm choosing that, the incident, the hypothetical incident that I just mentioned, someone barging in the door, isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. How do I know? Well, when you choose your defenselessness, the Course puts it, you go with mighty companions beside you. And there you have it. So it's a very important idea, and we'll see this again in a number of different forms. We will, because it's one of those premises that we need to, on the path, come back to again and again, because of course, here we are, adult learners, and with a stubborn streak. I just think of how true these ideas ring to me, and they always have. And then I think about how I allowed myself, especially when I was younger, to get swept away in the world, right? To get swept away in our habitual tendencies and our conditioning. And society tells us that we should behave one way. In fact, it insists and says you must behave a certain way. Our families have that. So it's really easy to lose sight of the way. I mean, it's really easy to lose our way, isn't it, in the world? I used to do it all the time, but deep down inside, I've always known. So when I discovered A Course in Miracles, rather, when it discovered me, all of these ideas began to make sense and to form a coherent whole. Now, I had been missing that in my own practice. I'd been missing that on my own journey. A blending of everything that I knew in my heart to be true, truth with a capital T. And it is nothing other than the truth of who we really are. The truth of who I am, the truth of who you are, everybody. So these are very, very powerful ideas. And if you find yourself following along in the workbook, wherever you are, whatever idea you're on or you're looking at, I invite you to think about the idea as often as you can. Recite it to yourself. There are ways, if you're so inclined, to set reminders. People set reminders on their watch with the day's idea. And sometimes people set reminders to practice. And those can be very, very handy. if you feel that would help you to recall the material. The minimum, I really invite you to read the commentary in the workbook for each day, because it explains the idea further. And often, as is the case today, Jesus explains why we're so resistant to it and what we stand to gain if we drop that resistance. And really, we should say when we drop that resistance, because you will drop that resistance. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in this lifetime. Though I hope that you may make some progress right now by starting to drop that resistance right now in the present moment. And if you're not sure what to do, ask your guides. Feel welcome to ask me any questions. A Course in Miracles has brought tremendous, impactful change and transformation, growth, reawakening really is the word. Because who we are doesn't really need to transform, doesn't need to transform at all. We're not broken. We're created perfectly. We're just waking up to that. It's another take on awakening or enlightenment or whatever term you use. The experience is beyond all terms, so it's pointless for us to quibble over the terminology. And we begin to see, the more we allow ourselves to, that spirituality is a universal experience. And not only that, it is our destiny to awaken, and we are spirit. So thank you so much for joining me. Isabel, hi, how are you? Thank you for tuning in here today. And guys, if you're catching me on the replay, feel welcome to say hello. And if you have comments or questions, as always, I'm open to those. And well, I'll tell you what, nothing is off limits. You want to know how I know that? There are no limits at all. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and I will see you back here tomorrow.